Shabbat is actually Tisha B'Av, the day when we mourn the destruction of both Batei Mikdash. How many Batei Mikdash did we have, girls? Two, right. Be'ezrat Hashem, Mashiach will come, and we're going to get the third Bet HaMikdash. But it is Shabbat. Instead of fasting on Shabbat, we're going to be fasting on the Sunday. Be'ezrat Hashem, Mashiach will come before then, and we won't even need to fast, please God. Okay, but I'm going to go through a quick story that has to do with Tisha B'Av and the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. So first, I want to share with us a story about Rabbi Akiva. One day, after the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash had gotten destroyed. The Romans had come and had completely destroyed the Bet HaMikdash, and it lay in shambles, and everything was broken, and they were like, let's destroy it all, lo aleinu. And after the destruction, all was left was like a broken pile of rubble and stones and stuff. And Rabbi Akiva was walking on the Har HaBayit along with other rabbanim. And as they were walking, the other rabbis, they see foxes, and little foxes are running in and out of the place where the Kodesh HaKodashim was, where the Holy of Holy was. And they burst out crying. The Kodesh HaKodashim was the place where only the Kohen Gadol could go. And he had to go only on Yom Kippur, a lot of preparations. And all the other rabbis, they started to cry, and they burst out crying. And they said, oh no, and they closed their eyes, and they said, oh no, we're not seeing this. And they started to cry. And Rabbi Akiva looked at it, and he started to laugh. Look at that. And he said, Rabbi Akiva, how in the world are you laughing when little foxes are running on the Har HaBayit? And he said, how in the world are you crying? So they said, what do you mean? Of course we're crying. Of course we're crying. Look at it. Little foxes are running in and out of the Bet HaMikdash. Remember how Yirmiyahu Hanavi was a big Navi who had lived many years old before. And Yirmiyahu Hanavi had prophesied, and he had said, Al Har Tzion Sheshamem Shualim Yalchubo, on the mountain of Tzion where the Bet HaMikdash stood, there's going to be foxes running around. And they said, look, that's exactly what happened. And Rabbi Akiva said, that's right. It is exactly what happened, what Yirmiyahu Hanavi said. But Yirmiyahu Hanavi also said something else. He also said that Mashiach is going to come, and there will be the rebuilding of the Bet HaMikdash. So Rabbi Akiva said, if the first part of the prophecy came true, and foxes are running around on the Har HaBayit, then for sure the second part of the prophecy will come true, and we will have the third Bet HaMikdash. And Be'ezrat Hashem, very soon with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, we will have the third Bet HaMikdash. But children, the second Bet HaMikdash all broke because of what was called Sinat Chinam, hatred for no reason. There was a man, we'll call him Ploni. And Ploni was extremely wealthy. He was very, very, very affluent. And Ploni felt, I'm going to make a massive party, and I'm going to invite all my best friends and all the dignitaries. In fact, Ploni started to invite all the big rabbis and all the princes and all of the generals in the army. Yes, darling, what is...
There is like one more thing in the break because in the Bet HaMikdash didn't get ruined.
Right, we have the Kotel, that's right. Thank you for that. Right, but we'll talk about that soon. And he invites everyone. Now there were two people. One of them was called Kamtza, whom he loved very much. The other one was called Bar Kamtza, whom he did not like. And he prepares all of the envelopes, and he tells his servant, he says, servant boy, go take all the invitations and go invite all my friends. Now, the invitation said on it, Kamtza. But the servant, who wasn't paying clear attention, just looked at the envelope and said, oh, let's look at that. What does it say? Kamtza. Okay, good. Let's go find Kamtza. And by accident, instead of going to Kamtza's house, he goes to Bar Kamtza's house. And he knocks on the door and he says, invitation for you. Kamtza, you're invited to Plony's big party. And now Bar Kamtza, children, I'll just use this part, it doesn't matter, was very surprised. And he said, what? Plony invited me to his party? I can't believe it. Oh, I'm so excited. We've always been fighting. I don't even know why we're fighting. Ever since we were little, we've been fighting. But if he's invited me, sorry, darling, it shakes the camera. If he's invited me, I'll be happy to come. Yay! Maybe he wants to be friends. Now, they were both wrong children. They were both fighting with each other constantly. And either way, Bar Kamtza arrives at the party. And when he arrives there, Plony comes to him and he says, hey, what are you doing here? Why are you in my party? And Bar Kamtza holds out the envelope and he says, look, you invited me. And Plony says, what? Give me that. Let me look at that. And he looks at the envelope. He goes, no, you fool. Doesn't say Bar Kamtza. It says Kamtza. I want to invite you. You're not coming to my party. Get out. And children, Bar Kamtza kept telling Plony, listen, I'll pay for my meal. You won't have to pay for my food. And Plony, who was very rich, Plony says, no, I don't want you to pay for your meal. And Bar Kamtza said, okay, I'll pay for half of the party, half of the food that's over here. He says, nah, I don't care for your money. I'm rich enough. And he says, don't throw me out in front of everyone. I'll pay for the entire party. Nah, I don't want your money or anything. And he made a big scene, children. They started to argue. You're always fighting with me. I never liked you in the first place. I should have never have come to your party. This is silly. And he says, yeah, I didn't want you in any case. My ridiculous servant made a mistake. And children, they started to fight. Now all the people who were there, all the princes and all the servants, all the generals in the army, all the rabbis, everybody felt very uncomfortable. And people didn't know what to do when these two were fighting. So they started to look down on their plate and pretend like they're eating. Look up at the sky and say, I'm not noticing this. Yeah, let's pretend we're talking about the weather. Oh, nice weather today. Yes, very nice weather today. But yesterday it rained. Yes, I know, yesterday, but 2 days ago it was windy. Yeah, and didn't we have a cold winter this past winter? And they started to talk about the weather and about how delicious the food is. And they tried to completely ignore what was going on. They were very uncomfortable. And nobody wanted to interfere with this argument that was taking place between Bar Kamtza and Plony. And Bar Kamtza throws him out. He kicks him out. For all his money, he says, get out. I don't want you or your money. Now, children, Bar Kamtza gets more and more angry. And he says, I'm going to take out my revenge on this Plony. And then he says, no, I'm not going to take my revenge out just on Plony. There were all these important ministers at the party. There were all the rabbis. There were all the generals and the princes and the noblemen, and nobody stood up in my defense. I'm going to take out my revenge on all the Jewish people. I'm going to get them all into trouble. And children, Bar Kamtza travels to Rome. He comes to Rome. He gets an audience with the Roman king, like the Caesar. And he tells them, King, the Jewish people, they don't like you. They're planning a revolt. They're going to kick you Romans out of Israel. Now you have to understand, the Romans had been kind of ruling Israel. It's a long historical story how it all happened. But they were amicable, meaning they were nice. They said, you pay us taxes, we'll keep quiet, and that's okay. And in fact, children, every single holiday of Sukkot, they would send a cow. It's a doggy, but we'll pretend it's a cow. They would send a cow as a sacrifice to the Bet HaMikdash, because on Sukkot, children, for the 7 days of Sukkot, the 70 nations, each nation would send a cow as a korban for Hashem, and it would be brought up as a korban, and the Jewish people would pray for that king to be very powerful and very successful. So, the Caesar of Rome, the king of Rome, he says, well, I don't understand. Every year I send a cow as a gift to the Bet HaMikdash to be brought up as a sacrifice. And Bar Kamtza tells him, nah, you think that they're taking your cow and bringing it up as a sacrifice? They're taking it and they're just throwing it out in the fields, or making a barbecue out of it, or whatever it is he told him. But they're certainly not giving it up as a korban to Hashem. So he says, I can't believe it. I've been doing it for years. I thought the Jewish people are my friends. And Bar Kamtza says, nah, king, they're your big enemies. They're planning a revolt. There's no way on earth that they're your friends. He says, in fact, why don't you send spies to go see what will happen to your cow? So the king agrees. He says, okay. So he puts the cow on the ship and he sends spies to go look what is going to happen to the cow that he sends as a gift to the Beis HaMikdash to be brought up as a korban. And in the middle of the night, children, Bar Kamtza was on the ship. He takes a knife. He doesn't kill the cow or anything. He just makes a slit on the inside of the cow's mouth, like the inner lip. Some say it was the lip, some say it was the tongue. But either way, in a part of the cow that you couldn't see properly, that was inside. Nobody noticed. Nobody knew he did it. But he had blemished the cow. It's what's called a mum. A mum means a blemish. He had blemished this cow. And when the cow arrives in Israel, the rabbis look at the cow. They check the cow and they say, okay, this is a great cow. We could bring it as a korban, but... Sorry. They say, let's check this cow. But then they look at the mouth of the cow and they say, oh no, this cow, it's pasul. It's not kosher enough to come as a gift for Hashem. If you bring a gift to Hashem, if you bring a sacrifice to the Bet HaMikdash to Hashem, it has to be perfect. You can't bring a cow with the cut on its tongue. As children, the rabbis themselves started to argue among themselves, and they could not decide what's the right thing to do. Like one rabbi said, my pockets. One rabbi said, let's just give it up in any case. Let's bring it up as a korban, or the king's going to get really angry. And another rabbi said, no, if we bring up a mum as a cow with a blemish on it, then people will think you could bring up blemished gifts to Hashem. No, we can't do it. Then they said, okay, so then let's get rid of Bar Kamtza, because he's going to go back to the Roman king and tell him better to make him like pass away and save the Jewish people. And the other rabbi said, no, you mean to tell us that if somebody brings up a cow to the Bet HaMikdash that's blemished, they have to be put to be passed away? No, that can't. And they argued and argued. And children, there was a big fight among the Jewish rabbis and the Jewish leaders too. Nobody knew what's the right thing to do. And in the end, they decided, you know what? We're just not going to bring cow up as a korban in the Bet HaMikdash. So they didn't do that. And the children, the king of Rome found out, and he got very, very angry. And he said, Bar Kamtza was right. I never realized it. And he sent all his soldiers to the Bet HaMikdash, and he himself went. Well, it was Titus eventually, children, which we didn't have time to learn the story of Titus this year. But Titus came and Titus destroyed the Bet HaMikdash, maybe if we have time tomorrow. And he completely destroyed the Bet HaMikdash children. All because Bar Kamtza and Ploni got into a fight, and it caused the Jewish people to go into exile and caused a tremendous amount of pain for the Jewish people. But children, it was hatred for no reason that caused the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. What's going to cause the rebuilding of the Bet HaMikdash, children? Ahavat Yisrael, loving each other for no reason. So Be'ezrat Hashem, now that everybody has Ahavat Yisrael, may the Jewish people continue to have a tremendous amount of love for each other and continue to teach the world about Hashem and His Torah. May we be zocher very speedily, even before this Tisha B'Av, to the building of the third Bet HaMikdash, together with Mashiach Tzidkenu.